I'm doing the button. Oh, hi, chat. It's us, your
Hello.
friends.
Hi.
We're vibing. We're hanging
We
out.
are
I'm gonna put the captions between us so that they represent both of us.
perfect.
Yay. But yeah, let's see who did their daily meowdy today. We've got Pluto. You were the first meowdy today.
I love to be first.
You were very meow today. We also have Sunberry, Commander Shalonian, hi Shell, Cyberpunk Boy, hi Bear, and Stom is here. Stom. Hello, Stom.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome in, y'all. So this is our perhaps once a month question mark stream called Doing the Work. It's on the second and fourth Tuesdays, but then the fourth Tuesday is Clouder Takeover. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know why that sound thing didn't go off. I have my alerts on. It didn't know. I will mix it up off and on again. We'll see if that solves it. But yes, we are doing an intersectional study today. We're going to watch an 18-minute video called The Urgency of Intersectionality, and then we'll have some discussion questions. So part of the structure of the show is if you would like to answer a question, we have the multi-purpose question channel point thing that has a fish rat with a party hat on. It says T for T, draw a card, genderful, ask a question, but really it could be genderful or the show I ran out of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be many things, but in this case it might be ask a question in this context. So I'm going to pause the music while we watch the video. It is from TEDx, which is very exciting. And we'll see if I have captured the audio or if I need to still set that up, but we'll give it a try. So this is called The Urgency of Intersectionality. It's by Kimberly Crenshaw, and it's from TED
Love
Women
her.
2016. Yeah, civil rights advocate Kimberly Crenshaw. As a pioneer in critical race theory, Kimberly Crenshaw helped open the discussion of the double bind faced by victims of simultaneous racial and gender prejudice. Nice. And then Abby Dobson is the artist on this one. Passionate about using music as a tool for empathy cultivation, Abby Dobson creates music to inspire audiences to reflect on the world we live in and engage in action to promote transformative social change. I'll drop the link for this video in the chat if anyone wants to go check it out later. There it is. If anyone is watching this and would like to support the Clouder today, we do have our Pally GG. I think it's Pally is the command for that one. And we are trying to get some funds together to table for Trans Pride this year, which is in the last Friday in June. So next month. Very exciting. Yeah. I want to move the goal over though because it's in the way of my
Exciting.
captions a little. Womp. There. Now it lives over there. Yeah, it is exciting. So
We're
I'll get
gonna we're
the.
gonna do stickers this year, right?
We are. I actually just put in the order yesterday with our new vendor. I'm excited.
Yay!
It's gonna be awesome. All right. Right. I can hear that, but I don't think you all can. Let's see if I can get captions at least. It's really small. It's so small. Mm-mm-mm.
So those of you who are still standing, I'd like you to turn around and take a look. I'd say half to most of the people are still standing. Tanisha Anderson, Ara Russer, Megan Hockaday.
Maddie Jackrabbit, welcome in.
The names know that these were African Americans who've been killed by the police over the last 2.5 years.
Okay, now that I finally got the audio to work, some context. The presenter had everyone stand up, and then basically said, sit down if you don't know the name of the person, or if you don't recognize who this is or why they're significant. And so then she listed a bunch of people who were killed by police. And then there was like 4 people at the end. As a side note, I will say, as a wheelchair user, one struggle I have with this particular exercise is the stand up part, because it leaves everyone in a chair out of it. Like if she had said stand up or raise your hand,
Totally.
or given an alternative to those who can't stand or can't stand for a long time. Anyway, I know that it's a big audience, and if you're in a college setting, for example, you might have like step in or wheel yourself in or whatever. There's some variations on how you can handle this, but anyway, I don't mean to be like negatively critical of this person. I just like noticed it and feel the irony of us talking about intersectionality but leaving disability out of it from the very first exercise. It's like, oh man. Anyway,
Yeah.
and I'm sure this is still great content. I just had a feeling. So I haven't seen this ahead of time. This is new to me as well. So also welcome into Jackrabbit and Trashcan Wolves. Yep. So we will get back to watching it.
What you may not know is that the other list is also African Americans who have been killed within the last 2 years. Only one thing distinguishes the names that you know from the names that you don't know: gender. So let me first let you know that there's nothing at all distinct about this audience that explains the pattern of recognition that we've just seen. I've done this exercise dozens of times around the country. I've done it to women's rights organizations. I've done it with civil rights groups. I've done it with professors. I've done it with students. I've done it with psychologists. I've done it with sociologists. I've done it even with progressive members of Congress. And everywhere, the awareness of the level of police violence that Black women experience is exceedingly low. Now, it is surprising, isn't it, that this would be the case? I mean, there are 2 issues involved here. There's police violence against African Americans, and there's violence against women, 2 issues that have been talked about a lot lately. But when we think about who is implicated by these problems, when we think about who's victimized by these problems, the names of these Black women never come to mind. Now, communications experts tell us that when facts do not fit with the available frames, people have a difficult time incorporating new facts into their way of thinking about a problem. These women's names have slipped through our consciousness because there are no frames for us to see them, no frames for us to remember them, no frames for us to hold them. As a consequence, reporters don't lead with them, policymakers don't think about them, and politicians aren't encouraged or demanded that they speak to them. Now, you might ask, well, why does a frame matter? I mean, after all, an issue that affects Black people and an issue that affects women, wouldn't that necessarily include Black people who are women and women who are Black people? Well, the simple answer is that this is a trickle-down approach to social justice, and many times it just doesn't work. Without frames that allow us to see how social problems impact all the members of a targeted group, many will fall through the cracks of our movements, left to suffer in virtual isolation. But it doesn't have to be this way. Many years ago, I began to use the term intersectionality to deal with the fact that many of our social justice problems, like racism and sexism, are often overlapping, creating multiple levels of social injustice. Now, the experience that gave rise to intersectionality was my chance encounter with a woman named Emma DeGraffenreid. Emma DeGraffenreid was an African-American woman, a working wife, and a mother. I actually read about Emma's story from the pages of a legal opinion written by a judge who had dismissed Emma's claim of race and gender discrimination against a local car manufacturing plant. Emma, like so many African-American women, sought better employment for her family and for others. She wanted to create a better life for her children and for her family. But she applied for a job and she was not hired, and she believed that she was not hired because she was a Black woman. Now, the judge in question dismissed Emma's suit. And the argument for dismissing the suit was that the employer did hire African Americans and the employer hired women. The real problem, though, that the judge was not willing to acknowledge was what Emma was actually trying to say, that the African Americans that were hired, usually for industrial jobs, maintenance jobs, were all men. And the women that were hired, usually for secretarial or front office work, were all white. Only if the court was able to see how these policies came together would he be able to see the double discrimination that Emma DeGraffenreid was facing. But the court refused to allow Emma to put two causes of action together to tell her story because he believed that by allowing her to do that, she would be able to have preferential treatment. She'd have an advantage by being able to have two swings at the bat when African American men and white women only had one swing at the bat. But of course, neither African American men or white women needed to combine a race and gender discrimination claim to tell the story of the discrimination they were experiencing. Why wasn't the real unfairness law's refusal to protect African American women simply because their experiences weren't exactly the same as white women and African American men? Rather than broadening the frame to include African American women, the court simply tossed their case completely out of court. Now, as a student of anti-discrimination law, as a feminist, as an anti-racist, I was struck by this case. It felt to me like injustice squared. So first of all, Black women weren't allowed to work at the plant. Second of all, the court doubled down on this exclusion by making it legally inconsequential. And to boot, there was no name for this problem. And we all know that where there's no name for a problem, you can't see a problem. And when you can't see a problem, you pretty much can't solve it. Many years later, I'd come to recognize that the problem that Emma was facing was a framing problem. The frame that the court was using to see gender discrimination or to see race discrimination was partial and it was distorting. For me, the challenge that I faced was trying to figure out whether there was an alternative narrative, a prism that would allow us to see Emma's dilemma, a prism that would allow us to rescue her from the cracks in the law, that would allow judges to see her story. So it occurred to me, maybe a simple analogy to an intersection might allow judges to better see Emma's dilemma. So if we think about this intersection, the roads to the intersection would be the way that the workforce was structured by race and by gender. And then the traffic in those roads would be the hiring policies and the other practices that ran through those roads. Now, because Emma was both Black and female, she was positioned precisely where those roads overlapped, experiencing the simultaneous impact of the company's gender and race traffic. The law was like that ambulance that shows up and is ready to treat Emma only if it can be shown that she was harmed on the race road or on the gender road, but not where those roads intersected. So, what do you call being impacted by multiple forces and then abandoned to fend for yourself? Intersectionality seemed to do it for me. I would go on to learn that African American women, like other women of color, like other socially marginalized people all over the world, were facing all kinds of dilemmas and challenges as a consequence of intersectionality, intersections of race and gender, of heterosexism, transphobia, xenophobia, ableism. All of these social dynamics come together and create challenges that are sometimes quite unique. But in the same way that intersectionality raised our awareness to the way that Black women live their lives, it also exposes the tragic circumstances under which African American women die. Police violence against Black women is very real. The level of violence that Black women face is such that it's not surprising that some of them did not survive their encounters with police. Black girls as young as 7, great-grandmothers as old as 95 have been killed by the police. They've been killed in their living rooms, in their bedrooms. They've been killed in their cars. They've been killed on the street. They've been killed in front of their parents, and they've been killed in front of their children. They have been shot to death. They have been stomped to death. They have been suffocated to death. They have been manhandled to death. They have been tasered to death. They've been killed when they've called for help. They've been killed when they were alone, and they've been killed when they were with others. They have been killed shopping while Black, driving while Black, having a mental disability while Black, having a domestic disturbance while Black. They've even been killed being homeless while Black. They've been killed talking on the cell phone, laughing with friends, sitting in a car reported as stolen, and making a U-turn in front of the White House with an infant strapped in the back seat of the car. Why don't we know these stories? Why is it that their lost lives don't generate the same amount of media attention and communal outcry as the lost lives of their fallen brothers? It's time for a change. So what can we do? In 2014, the African American Policy Forum began to demand that we say her name at rallies, at protests, at conferences, at meetings, anywhere and everywhere that state violence against Black bodies is being discussed. But saying her name is not enough. We have to be willing to do more. We have to be willing to bear witness to the often painful realities that we would just rather not confront, the everyday violence and humiliation that many Black women have had to face. Black women across color, age, gender expression, sexuality, and ability. So we have the opportunity right now, bearing in mind that some of the images that I'm about to share with you may be triggering for some, to collectively bear witness to some of this violence. We're going to hear the voice of the phenomenal Abby Dobson. And as we sit with these women, some who've experienced violence and some who have not survived them, we have an opportunity to reverse what happened at the beginning of this talk, when we could not stand for these women because we did not know their names. So at the end of this clip, there's going to be a roll call. Several Black women's names will come up. I'd like those of you who are able to join us in saying these names as loud as you can, randomly, disorderly. Let's create a cacophony of sound to represent our intention to hold these women up, to sit with them, to bear witness to them, to bring them into the light.
I'm going to go back and read those content warnings because it flashed across the screen so quickly. But I did see a content warning for police violence.
To the light.
First thing. Graphic images of police violence against Black women and girls. The images shown may not be appropriate for children under the age of 16. So this is chat's heads up. The rest of this is about 2 minutes long. So if you don't have the space in your heart for this part, come back in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we can let you know in chat when it's over.
Say her name. Say her name. Oh, say her name. Say her name. Say their names, for all the names I'll never. So this says, please stand for these women and say their names on behalf of women everywhere who have suffered from state-sanctioned violence. No,
I asked for Sharon Jones, Janisa Fonville, Catherine Johnson, Kayla Moore, Michelle Cassell, Rakia Boyd, Shelley Frey, Tarika Yvette Smith. Say their name. As I said at the beginning, if we can't see a problem, we can't fix a problem. Together, we've come together to bear witness to these women's lost lives. But the time now is to move from mourning and grief to action and transformation. This is something that we can do. It's up to us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
All right. I realized partway through that if I turned on my Windows captions and slapped them over the top of the video, we could read them. So that was why there was like a big giant pop-up in the middle of the video, and it was like, oh yes, random Spotify, what's this? So sorry for that, and I hope that the captions helped everyone else. They definitely helped me when I switched them over.
Yeah, totally.
So the link for what we just watched just popped into the chat. I put it on a timer. Thank you for writing that up for us, Pluto. So it was Kimberly Crenshaw discussing the urgency of intersectionality. Yeah. I don't know why those sounds aren't working, because I definitely have the things running that should make them go. But so we have some reflection questions for us all to sit with and think about. And I think we'll do them one at a time, and we'll give some time to answer them. What I might actually do is get my co-working software running so that we have something to kind of look at and work off of with our timing.
Sounds
And
good.
maybe I can use the checklist to write the question. Maybe, I don't know if it'll fit, but we'll give it a try. So I just need a moment to set that up. What did you think of that video, Pluto?
I've seen it so many times, and it's still like, it's one that resonates with me every time. I just think it's such an important topic, and I'm really glad that Kimberly Crenshaw kind of led the led the conversation talking about it. I've like read a lot of her works over the years when I was in school. But yeah, I think it's really important, especially as we exist in the world that we exist in, recognizing who like basically just understanding the role that intersectionality plays in our day-to-day lives, and the way that we are all affected by, systemic, like, all the systems in place to keep people either more powerful or more oppressed is, yeah, it's just really important. I'm glad that we're talking about, and I think one that is definitely a very important topic for the clouder. Because I think a lot of us are experience the world through intersectional marginalizations.
Yeah. So I'm almost there in terms of getting my visual part of this set up here. So I'm maybe going to do a 5-minute timer. Let me get the screen share of the actual thing. I will also paste these in chat because I'm seeing how small it looks on my screen, and I bet it's small for others too. What I could do is stick this behind both of us and therefore make it bigger.
Yes.
At least somewhat. So we'll do 5 minutes on question 1 and then 5 minutes on question 2. I will. Is there? I guess I can do it this way. I'm also going to do it with highlight my message because I've heard that the announcement feature doesn't work super great sometimes if you're on mobile. So the first question for us is, how do framing and intersectionality come up in your local community? Are you able to identify them? Discuss how these show up and your responses to them. So we'll just have 5 minutes for folks to reflect on that. If you would like to put your response, like for me to read to the community, use the draw a card, ask a question, but channel point thing. And we'll see what we come up with in our little 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you, anonymous someone, for the $94 tip towards our trans pride. We're now at
Thank you.
$169 out of 400.
Nice.
Nice.
Perfect.
Very, very appreciated.
Very exciting.
I'm really looking forward to this year. All right. How do framing and intersectionality come up in your local community? Don't know how to make this font any bigger, and I'm sorry about that, everyone else. Let's see. Right, folks, our 5 minutes is wrapping up, so if you have a bit of writing you've been working on, you might consider hitting submit. It does not have to be perfect. I just realized no one else could hear the lo-fi. Ha ha ha. Or the timer at the end. Just as a side note for my streamer pals, when you're capturing a game, is there... I thought there was a way to capture the audio. Well, I guess here it is, capture audio beta. Can folks hear the sort of a game, but not quite a game sounds now? You can hear it now. Okay. I will read Juliet Maddie's first, and then I'll circle back to what I wrote. And then, Pluto, you can also share verbally or in writing or whatever you like. Okay. So Juliet Maddie said, "We need to get more involved in our local community is my biggest takeaway. The legislature here is not actively hostile to so many marginalized people, but that only means we need to work harder to understand and work against inequalities faced by multiple marginalized people here in Juliet Maddie's new home." And folks, if you were writing but you didn't get it done in 5 minutes, like, feel free to send it in as we're discussing. We can add it to the queue.
Yeah, especially if like more things come up for you as we're discussing.
Yeah. And it helps if you use the submit a question button, just so that I can not, like, if chat starts getting busy, I just don't want to lose your thoughts, but for now it's slow enough that worked for me. So what I wrote is, this is hard for me to answer because I'm so detached from local community due to disability. I know that on Twitch and online content creation spaces, multiply marginalized folks get less support and engagement from both Twitch and from audiences, and have a much harder time hitting milestones like Twitch partner. I'm more likely to see a single marginalized identity celebrated and spotlighted than an intersecting one. So when I wrote that, I was thinking about, like, when Twitch will have, like, front page spotlights, and they'll have a gallery, and it's like, okay, here's this identity, or here's that identity. I less often will see, like, a blend of multiple marginalized identities in, like, a front page spotlight. Anyway, so Miranda's saying, I feel that I'm also not very connected to local.
Acknowledge disability as well, I find, on Twitch. I know Chi-Chi is really trying to advocate for a disability guild, and I'd really love to see one show up on Twitch.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't really understand the guilds. Like, do you have to be a Twitch partner to be in a guild?
You used to, but I think they changed it to affiliate now.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can be one.
Is there a trans guild?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I don't think so. I know there's a women's guild, and I know there's a black guild, and I know there's a Latin guild, I think, but I don't know if there's any other ones yet.
So I know that a lot of us are kind of getting stuck on the local part, local community. And I think part of that for me, though, is, like, sometimes local community is not accessible. And so, like, when the intersection of my disability is part of the conversation, it just becomes so much harder because local community maybe isn't also taking COVID safety seriously. And so then it's, like, really challenging to engage with local community because of that, for me at least.
Yeah.
That's 169. That's so fun.
I know for myself, like, was really cut off from local community for a really long time. The social isolation was, like, really, really real. And now I'm in the local community like a lot nowadays, and it's like I feel like intersectionality is really coming up a lot for me because I'm just being reminded that like I'm disabled and I'm like I have all these intersectional identities, and I know something I've talked about a lot with other disabled friends is like feeling that kind of abandonment from folks you know online, kind of like going back into their real lives, quote unquote, like going like and just spending less time online and kind of feeling that like social abandonment. And I feel like now that I'm online less because of my new like living situation and like the like experiencing the culture shock of like having in-person community again, it brings up this like deep kind of guilt, if that makes sense. And I think it's really like bringing the intersectionality up for me of like navigating like disability and stuff while also like I don't know. But yeah, my main answer for that question is it comes up a lot. Like I would feel like it comes up like pretty much like every day, every other day, because my my roommate is like Black, trans, disabled person, and my like two of my closest friends are also people of color, so it comes up a lot, because obviously they experience something I don't, which is like racial, like racism and racial marginalization, but then also like they're all thinner than me, so then I experience that marginalization, which I feel like I've been really feeling lately, of like the kind of like being like how being fat affects your life, and it intersects in a lot of ways. Yeah, so it just I don't know, it comes up a lot, and it comes up a lot in my everyday life because I feel like I have a very intersectional group of friends and people around me, and so it's just like things we talk about regularly.
Yeah, I appreciate those thoughts, Pluto. Miranda's adding via the chat, I felt abandonment from my in real life social group when COVID quote unquote ended. Everyone went back to their lives and I got left behind.
Yeah, totally.
I feel that too. Really did that a lot.
Yeah, it's really hard feeling like you have to sacrifice your physical safety in terms of COVID so that you have real life community, like IRL community. And it's really hard because even like I've felt a stronger sense of local community ever since I started going to like the Palestine protests. I've been very spooned out, so I haven't been to one in a little bit, but there was a point where I was at them every 2 weeks pretty much, and the real life community is really hard because it's like it's scary because I have agoraphobia and am disabled and not everyone's wearing masks, but it's something I care enough about to risk it. So it's like you have to constantly play this game and it's exhausting.
Yeah. I did have a chance a weekend or two ago, I think it was 2 weekends ago, to do some magic with some witches, some friends of mine, in support of good outcomes for trans and otherwise marginalized peoples with the state legislature and the national legislature. I don't know what's going on with Canadian politics, but I can tell you in the United States we have a lot of anti-trans stuff happening that's really intense. And so being able to gather with, 4 or 5 others and just hold in-person sacred space about it was really powerful experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that my particular like spiritual community is also full of activists, and that we do both at the same time. It's nice to be able to do both at the same time. Miranda is saying, it's tough. It's why I'm not connected. Part of why I'm not connected to local community. I lost all of my local friends, and it's really hard for me to do things by myself. Like I'm going to this rally by myself and pushing myself to do it. We have anti-trans grifters here in Canada too. They have less power here, but that's likely to change in the next week or year. I don't know why my brain wrote week there. So we have our ads starting in about 8 minutes. So what I might do is throw up our other question and give folks some time to think about that, and then we'll have our little ad break, and then we'll come back and discuss the second question. So let me just throw that in the highlight message, and I'll do it as an announcement as well. Did that do anything? No. Okay. There we go. Okay, so it says 7, so I'm gonna reset this to, we'll do 7 and 3, because that'll be our writing time and our BRB. Okay. And maybe I will, let's see. So yes, our next writing prompt. Maybe I'll read what Prismatic Blood wrote, and then we'll do our next writing prompt. Prismatic says, I have had a lot of trouble doing community over the last few years because I got brain damage from COVID, and it became real hard to communicate with people or follow the news to a meaningful extent. That is so real. I'm glad that you're here today. Really nice to see you. Yeah, I actually, for a book that stands at the intersection of trans and disabled, I wrote an entire chapter for this anthology my friend is putting together that was about the power of online community for trans and disabled people who are in that intersection. Anyway, I think the anthology is just called Trans and Disabled. So, I don't know when it's coming out. I know there will eventually be an audiobook version. I offered to read my chapter if that's of interest to the folks putting it together, but they're also, trans and disabled, so it takes time to put things together. So,
I love that. I would love to read it when it comes out.
Yeah. Somewhere is my chapter, but I don't know if I'm allowed to just share that around with people just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So, probably I should wait, but I'm excited for it to be out in the world. I talk about the clouder in it, which is fun.
Great.
Anyway, so here's our question 2. Think about a death or any incident that has involved a Black, Indigenous, person of color, person of culturally and linguistically diverse background, CALD, in Australia, that has been covered in your local media. How was it framed? What information was highlighted? What information was missing? And I'm going to say local media or national media, because we all just talked about how local is a sticky point for us on these writing topics. So we can sit and think about that, and then we'll have our little ad break, and then we'll come back for our little answers. I am going to pin the message so that we can have a pretty background instead of just words on the screen. But that is our next prompt for right now. They give us a different little friend. Yes, we are doing writing, but still. I think we should do the gay slide.
Have a good meeting, Miranda.
Love you, Miranda. Thanks for stopping in. And as a reminder, if you want to compose your answer in the channel point thing, you can. You legit just remembered you had it. I'm glad you remembered. Good remembering. All right, our ads are now starting. I actually just finished my thought exactly when that happened, so that was cool that worked out. Anyway, so we will be back. You might already be in ads. We'll be back in about 3-ish minutes, and then we can discuss. I have to grab my medicine, so it might be slightly more than 3 minutes, but we'll be right back. I'll put folks on a channel trailer scene so you have something to watch besides a BRB screen. This is the secret to how fluffy my beard is, everybody.
There's no traditional fixed binary way of thinking about gender. We can just start to play with it, enhance everyone's lives.
I'm holding your balls on stream.
Yay!
Groceries are so gay.
Yep, I've accepted my fate.
Oops, all bisexual.
Somebody once told me.
No, my two genderinos. We could do this, little guy.
Ah.
Stay alive, just stay alive now!
And then in the afternoon, I have D&D.
Oh, private D&D.
It looks like there may be a bump on the way to the eventual positive outcome. We do get there.
Yeah, makes bone noise. I mean, I need to behave. This is not my channel.
I really like hitting things and then running away.
We just hit the hysterectomy stretch goal. We're gonna make Lex cry again. The toe bean stretches, the toe beans. Puberty blockers are not the same thing as hormone replacement therapy. Puberty blockers gives a pause to the biological puberty that your child or a child goes through. It's reversible. You go off the blockers and your body resumes its normal puberty. Puberty and hormone replacement therapy both cause harder to reverse things to happen. Having to reverse these changes, especially if a youth knows that they don't want to go through them, is expensive. It costs time. It's a lot of learning and unlearning and relearning. And it's better for the youth to hit pause and be able to make this decision as an adult than not have access to the medical care they need and suffer the mental health trauma that they go through the wrong puberty. It's a daily experience of body horror. Their bodies are transforming the wrong way every day, and it leads to a lot of really negative outcomes for trans youth.
Was in my head like, oh no, ladies get free drinks, that's not me. So I guess that's kind of gender euphoria. It was like a definite, I laugh about it a lot because I was like, oh, that you mean me? I was like, free drinks for who? And they're like, you. And I was like, me? Oh yeah, I'm a lady.
I love that. When your headcanon about yourself is like, ah, yes, I fall in the not lady bucket. Very good.
Kind of try to decolonize your mindset as much as you possibly can to try to help you on that journey, because if you're stuck and you don't know why, it might be because of these Eurocentric ideas on gender and the gender binary and gendered roles and things like that, and how you should look and how you should talk and, you know, what it looks like. And also, you know, kill the fat phobia in your mind.
Everyone always asks, they wouldn't be secrets if we told, would they?
Excellent point.
I think the autistic horror secrets are the friends we made along the way. Future branding idea, I love that. That's wonderful. Stream cheese. Melody, our gender is complicated plate of spaghetti with multiple sauces and plenty of cheeses. We also might be hungry right now. I mean, fair. Your throat is telling you that this was a mistake, but it's not the boss of me, I say. It's one of the wonderful things about online community is, like, we can befriend each other and, like, you know, support each other no matter what time zone or how far away we are, like, in real life, you know?
Yeah.
So we can find like-minded people who get the trans and gender diverse thing. This episode
Cheese,
brought to you
good.
by Stream Cheese, the string cheese for streamers. New York Fries is a poutineery in Canada. Oh my gosh. Poutineery is the best word I've read all day. And my captioner even knows that it's a word. Poutineery. 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 There we go. 1500. Targeted chicken yeet! I got a game over. My drill shaft is badly damaged. That's too bad. I do love my drill shaft. During full moon, werewolves start to come out. Gay. Gay werewolves. And now we still have low spoons. Adjust your expectations. Cat-cam and cat-cam. Cat-camception. You know what's very meta is bottom surgery. Oh, I did a good joke. My anti-racism brings all the Lexes to the yard. And they're like, you're talking about race. And I'm like, I sure am. We should talk about it some more. And they're like, heck yeah. Black Lives Matter. All right, everyone. So here's the schedule for next week. There's no genderful on Monday. I don't know which way to lean. There's no genderful on Monday. Because it's Halloween / Samhain. So a bunch of the crew is like, we got plans, so we're not streaming that day. Tuesday, we're gonna play Temtem with Sunberry. It's gonna be great. It's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific on my channel here on Twitch. On Wednesday morning, I'll be on the Transversus channel from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific, playing Evolutionary. We're doing Fire Red. We just got to these 3 islands that I didn't know exist after you get your 7th gym badge, so we're pretty far in that run. It's a randomizer, so who knows what Pokemon we'll run into. That part's fun. Later on Wednesday evening on my channel, instead of the Transverse, on Gender Master, we're going to be playing Breath of the Wednesday from 6 to 9 Pacific. And then the last stream right here, lean the other way. In the meantime, it's our second of 3 18+ streams, and it's actually, this is wrong, it's not memes. I didn't update the calendar, I guess. It's not memes, it's actually Monster Camp, Monster Prom, one of those. It's a dating simulator. Which clip was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below.
The bottom of my heart that your path may be filled with pride, and that the light that you shine will be brighter than the rainbow. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We raise money for top surgery, name change, and a hysterectomy in one stream. Oh my gosh, I don't think we've ever funded 2 surgeries in one stream. It's amazing. I'm crying about it. It's ridiculous.
It's trans power.
So, can trans men get bottom surgery? There is at least 3 kinds that I know of. One is called phalloplasty, where you build a neophallus out of other parts of your body. Another is called metoidioplasty, where they use existing tissue to wrap around the neopenis that you can grow on testosterone. And the final and most simplest procedure is called erectile tissue release, where they sever some ligaments to let the, I like to call it a penis or a tiny penis, be released from the shape that the ligaments pull the clitoris into to let it stand more free of the body. You can add testicles, you can flatten out the mons pubis, you can move around labia and close the vagina and remove the uterus and other feminine reproductive organs. But all in all, yeah, trans men and transmasculine people can have bottom surgery, and there's a lot of options. You got a direct phone line to the god of this world? Sometimes. I don't call them, they call me. I don't want to knock it out. Stay in there. Yes! Awesome. We did it! Ha 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 ha. I just one-shotted God. I don't know if I did that right. Sometimes she falls asleep in my arms, just sprawled everywhere. The only thing holding up her head is my arm. It's very cute. Oh, that's a paw. You did such a cute stretch. Mr. Limpy, the mascot for the Green Bay Packers. Mr. Limpy is officially a sponsor of the Green Bay Packers. It felt perhaps like disingenuous, or like I was faking it or something, talking way down there. And then I realized, like, yeah, it's my voice. Like, it's my body that's producing this noise. This is like every trans guy after his T-jab. Grok! You like the outfit? Beautiful boy, girl. Exactly. Ah, yes, the 3 genders, male, female, and cool haircut. So queer. Happy Pride, Melly. Happy Pride. What did we do this week? Here are some of our favorite clips that you all made. Sometimes my mouth does sounds instead of words. Wee. So then after Quaxwell, what was it? See, I shuffled them weird. Might be Armarouge, Meowth, Knockley, maybe? I don't know what that Pokemon cry was. I don't know who I have out now. Oh, that was super effective. Nice. I think I knocked out whatever that was. We did it! Oh, that was not Knockley at all. What did I fight? What happened? What did I miss? You won the gym battle. Have some cupcakes. Oh, there was all of my Daruk stuff. Yep. Now comes the pain. Run, Link, run! Zigzag, zigzag! Zigzag harder! So into this. Okay. Horse, don't explode. No, horse, don't explode. Don't explode. Run the other way. Be scared, don't get hurt. Why are you jumping into the flames? Heck you. Oh my gosh. It's very rude. I'm like solving puzzles while exploding things are coming past my head. It's very silly. You found me. You found me in this war zone. What's happening? Hi, chat. We're back.
Hello.
Yes, welcome back. Thank you for everyone's patience while I gathered my assorted medicines. I still need to take them, but they're now at my desk, which makes it easier to do. We had at least 2 people answer the question with the little fill out the thing button. You had no idea. Thanks for sharing. I missed what that was responding to. Oh, your union rep. Oh, hell yeah. Go, Miranda, go. Maybe it was
Our
about next round.
avatars are very cool. That's because they were designed by Augie.
Yes.
He's great. We love Augie.
Whenever it's near the first of the month, Augie's commissions open again. And, oh gosh, what is Augie's channel? I thought it was Mrs. Gendered. Is there an underscore?
I think it's an underscore.
There we go.
There we go.
So,
we love Augie in this house.
So Augie is a transmasculine person whose internet handle is Mrs. Gendered.
it's everything to me.
Such a pun. It's so good.
And they're
Augie,
a fellow possum lover, which I
yes. I just want to say that Augie has been a friend of the Clouder before Augie got big, but Augie is totally blowing up on Instagram right now, like in a good way. Like, I think over 200,000 followers in less than 3 months or something. Just like Augie started drawing My Little Ponies that were really sick, and people got really into it. It was like, oh my.
Yeah, they tapped into a fandom with that one.
It continues to be incredible.
Yes.
So I'm switching to this scene so we have the ambiance of the fire in the background. Maybe I'll turn the music today on. Let's see. We'll do the chill one. The chill tunes. Did you know that when you turn the fire up, it gets bigger? When you turn it down, it gets smaller. That's so cool. Anyway, I'm gonna pick a new friend. I just like looking at the different ones. Let's do. Is Trash Can Wolf still here? We could do a puppy. No wolves, Lexa
Let's do a puppy.
I'm gonna do Trans Pride Doggo.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 12:42. We have an hour and 15 minutes, 3 of which is probably another set of ads. Pluto, I know that you have at least one piece of content you wanted to present today, so I want to make sure we have time for that. What do you think? Should we set maybe 15 minutes for this conversation as sort of a loose goal?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. So we're discussing the second question. It's also pinned. Think about a death or any incident that has involved Black, Indigenous, person of color, or a person of culturally and linguistically diverse background called, in Australia, that has been covered in your local media. How is it framed? What information was highlighted? What information was missing? I'm going to read the other person's answer first because I did not give myself time to find the link I wanted to show us. But Juliet Maddie said, the first person that comes to mind is Next Benedict. Their Indigenous background was frequently ignored. We were glad that the gathering in their memory that we attended recognized the Choctaw heritage and included funeral rites from their community. Oh, that's cool. I'm glad that that was part of it. Gosh, that's so important.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was definitely a big thing. Next Benedict was that it was just completely glossing over their Indigenous identity, and it's really frustrating, especially given the rate of, like the rate of violence towards Indigenous people. How it's a huge issue with like missing and murdered Indigenous, well, women and girls and Two-Spirit people. I obviously don't know if Max is Two-Spirit because they were 15. I don't know if they identified as that yet, but yeah, it's very frustrating that their identity was glossed over.
Just a moment while I ask my friend for this resource. I'm trying to remember. I have put my request to my friend. So I can, oh, you're back just in time. You had a tick situation. Oh no, on a cat or a person? It's not fun for anyone. Ticks are never fun. I'm sorry that happened at all. Anyway, okay, so what I wrote was media coverage was talking about 1, the trauma of the death, 2, national response and protests, and 3, police misdoing. But it is not covering what the person's life was all about, what she loved to do, or was well known or cherished for in her life. I remember an article talking about this pattern in journalism from when we were covering Disability Day of Mourning this year. I'll see if I can get that article again. I had the pleasure of organizing Disability Day of Mourning with the, I think it was the Pittsburgh Center for Autistic Advocacy. And it was really amazing to work with them. Because they are really disability forward with their planning. Like everyone on the planning team was disabled, and we had ASL at the event, like live ASL. And we also had live captions, like like, I think there was a person that was typing them live captions. And it was just like, this is just me telling a story now, but I really want to tell the story. It was really amazing to work with a team that was so disability forward and also knew a bunch of intersections to include, because it's the intersection of assorted physical disabilities along with mental disabilities, which I also feel like is an intersection that can get missed sometimes. Like, you know, I've been in different disabled communities that don't think about access for people with other access needs, not necessarily competing access needs, but other access needs. And so, you know, thinking about what are the colors we're using for visibility needs, what are the various sources of accessing sound or a lack of access to sound. So having captions and ASL. So for those who don't know sign language, having the written words. And then for those who do have sign language, there was 4 people on the sign language team because it was a live event. There was a person who could hear listening to the words, signing to a deaf person, and then the deaf person was signing to everyone who was watching the stream. This is actually, I think it may have been published to our VODs channel. It may also be on our regular Gender Master channel. It's on one or both of those channels. So if you're interested in what I'm talking about, I think Lexington pushed it out to my Gender Master VODs channel this in the last week or so. By the way, we have a second YouTube channel now just for VODs. So I had a friend who told me, hey, my TV doesn't have the Twitch app and it's unlikely to, and I want to be able to watch your content when you're not live, because the time of day doesn't work for me. Can you publish your VODs to YouTube? And I said, you know what, that will take me just a few extra clicks if I set it up right. And yes, I would love to do that for you, because we tend to publish like edited, polished things to the Gender Master YouTube. So we now have a second YouTube channel called Gender Master VODs, VODS for video on demand. And you can see, hi, it's a cat, all sorts of things there, including, I think, the disabled day of mourning stuff. I don't know why the hype command didn't work, Transl. That should have done something. It's fascinating. Yeah, I think it's video on demand.
Says there were a bunch of articles over the last year or so about incidents where multiple politicians from the center-right, Left for Americans, and left-wing parties who were presenting against women, Maori or Indian heritage, had mental breakdowns in public. There were many articles about them, and they like to quote members of the right-wing parties basically saying stuff like, "You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen," and also implying they were feeble-minded for being women, and especially women of color. Yeah. None of the articles mentioned the constant harassment and death threats they were getting. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
It reminds me of, like, there's some, I don't know what adjective I want to use here, but there's some content that is perhaps sensational on YouTube where men are getting, and I mean cis men are getting electrodes strapped to their lower backs and abdomens, and then they're getting shocked. Yeah. And they're like, okay, now go work a full day. And this is what women have to do, or like people with uteruses that bleed have to do every period. Like a quarter of their lives, of their adult lives, is this. And like, on the one hand, I'm like, that's probably good for them to know, and on the other hand, I'm like, I don't know if they're adequately replicating that experience. I don't know. I don't know. I feel weird about it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
I
like,
get
what
where they're
about all
trying to
the
go, but I
systemic
don't know.
things? Yeah. I think my answer to the question that we were talking about is well, this isn't like local to me. It happened in the States, but the Brian, I think about Brian Gaynor a lot, who is the he's a 15-year-old black autistic person who was killed by police in March. And I think about him a lot because there's a lot of articles talking about how he was a black teenager killed by police, and there was a lot of articles talking about how he was a like autistic kid killed by police. But I feel like I didn't see a lot of articles talking about how he was a black autistic like child, and I think that just really emphasizes like the very real discrimination that black autistic people experience, and even within like autistic spaces, it's very like centered around white people, and I learned from my black autistic friends that like their experience being autistic is very different than white people's experience being autistic, especially with masking and like code switching, and how like it is very easy for white people who are autistic to not like, for like myself, who don't really mask anymore because I like yeah, it's inherently much more dangerous to be unmasked autistically. Like for me, like I'm like, if I'm stimming in public with my hands, it's very unlikely that they will view me as a threat, whereas like people who are black don't have that experience, and it is very dangerous for them to unmask in a lot of situations. And yeah, it's just something I think about a lot, because I am very present in like disability communities, and there is really a problem within the autistic community of not acknowledging like racial discrimination and racism and intersectionality, specifically anti-black racism. And yeah, it's just something I think about. Also, kind of to add on to the question, but more locally for me, being Canadian is a really, or so-called Canadian, living in so-called Canada, is really like, it's the politics here is really interesting, because like I think that we have this, I mean, it's obviously changed a lot, especially like in the last like 6 months. I feel like the Canadian mask has absolutely slipped, especially regarding Palestine. But it's like Canada has given itself this reputation as being accepting and progressive, whereas we're really not. It's really not the case. And so the racism here is like, it's obviously it still exists the same way as it does in other places, but that polite means nice, yeah. And I think it's like I feel like here we have really rampant like covert races, like covert racism and microaggressions. I feel like that is a really big problem in Canada, where I live, or so-called Canada, because
15 minutes just wrapped. I can't believe it.
oh my gosh.
But also,
but yeah,
we're
that's
the
just
boss of
something
our
I
own
think
stream,
about.
you and me. We can decide to keep
Yeah.
going if we want. I'm just trying to help with time blindness is all.
Mhm.
I think maybe another 15 minutes. I feel like there's still many things we all want to say about these subjects before we look at new, like, source
Yeah.
material to read. Yeah. Oops. Did I do a weird? Okay. Sorry. Please continue, Pluto.
I think I was pretty much done, honestly. I think it's. I'm glad that the kind of like mask that. I'm glad that kind of Canadian mask is really starting to slip now that people are really fed up, quite frankly, and like I think things are changing here, but also like, oh, it's just, yeah, I don't know. Canadians are like very like their own brand of ignorant. That is, I could talk for hours about, quite frankly.
I hear you. Yeah, so a few moments ago in the chat, I shared a link to some, it feels almost like it's stats about journalism, because the academic study of journalism is a thing. And so it has some stats about the various demographics of people within journalism and how that's shifting around. Since our question that we're working through together has to do with how things were covered in media. So thinking about who's making that media, who's making those decisions, do they also hold multiple marginalized identities? And even on this report, as I'm scrolling through, like I see like how many of them are women, how many of them are whatever, but I'm not seeing multiple marginalized identities represented in any of these like charts that they made. So once again, we just have like, you know, a complete and utter lack of awareness of multiple vectors concurrently. So I'm also looking through this thread because I really wanted to share a specific article that I now cannot find, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Can relate to the stuff about national mask slipping for Aeroterra. Light means nice. Yeah, people are just getting bold and brazen with their misbehaving at this point. Thread. My friend who's at work and cannot join stream is writing awesome big chunks of things in my DMs that I'm gonna copy paste for us to read. So this is still on the topic of journalism. Ooh, I lost all my numbers. Just adding line breaks so that my brain doesn't
is Aotearoa, I believe. Aotearoa.
Thank you very much for that redirect. I like a Japanese pronunciation. Okay. Aotearoa. Roll a bit of a roll on the R. Aotearoa. Like a flip or a full roll?
Got it.
Um,
Thank you for sending that, phonetic. Appreciate it. The Maori name for adventure, yes. It's one of those words that I read a lot, but have just never actually, like, spoken out loud.
it's the Maori name for your country. Yeah. Yeah, I try to use that instead of New Zealand. I think both the combination of the United States and Canada are called Turtle Island, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is. Turtle Island.
Here's the TLDR from my friend who's reporting in from my Discord DMs, which I will read the bigger chunk that I have on screen, but I'll read the little chunk first. So the TLDR, when you take all of that in, the things on the screen I'm going to read in a minute, it means unless you are actively seeking out writers and publications that aren't upper middle class, white, cishet, able people talking about upper class, white people concerns, you are getting a very particular view of the world pre-digested for you.
Yeah, totally.
Pluto, I can tell you that this is one of our new Clatter contributors who's writing these things to me. I'm excited for you to meet each other.
Oh, awesome.
Whenever we get to that point. I think you're on different teams, but you may run into each other at some point, which would be fun. So here's the other words that my friend wrote. It's very important to keep a few things in mind when discussing journalism and media. One, it's seen as one of those jobs you do for the love of it, like teaching, so you don't have to pay for it. So most people doing it are usually supported by spouses or generational wealth. Two, while there's supposed to be a wall between editorial and business or advertising, that has been very eroded by the move to online and an affiliate marketing and vanity purchasing of media by billionaires. Hello, Twitter. 3, different publications have different expectations of a standard reader, and they write to a standard idea of a reader. Like USA Today is written to a lower reading level than The Economist, but also The New Yorker assumes wealth and access in readers, so imagine the standard audience for something like The Epoch Times. There's always language and norm differences. 4, one of the axioms of journalism is if it bleeds, it leads, and this has been exacerbated by rage bait and tabloid stuff becoming more normal. And then my friend is adding as an addendum, and normally this is where I go into a pitch for RSS, which I think is where you aggregate your own media into like an app or a program for yourself.
Yes.
And you subscribe to very specific reporters or storytellers or sources of media instead of just like getting a newspaper delivered to your house.
Yeah.
So just found a totally unrelated to what we're talking about resource that I just need to stick somewhere. So it is a how to hold a vigil in person guidebook, which is a useful thing to have, but I don't need it right now, thankfully. Okay, my friend said I could mention their handle. So this is from our new Clatter contributor, Burns Both Ends. I just wanted to ask for permission first to share a handle or a username. So anyway, yeah, I am gonna delete the big chunk of text that's in here now. It's not totally overwhelming. So I think if I remember, Pluto, you have a resource you wanted to share with us today.
Yes.
So I'm gonna figure out, is it one or two things? I can't remember now. If it was two
I
things.
think it's just one image.
Okay. Oh, it like
The link that I sent
Related
is like
the
to
source for the image.
Yeah, it's the source to the
Oh,
image
I
of
see.
the writing, but then the image is just put it there for
So
access.
you just want me to
easy
open the
access.
image.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, let me flip around what's on top here. Come on, brain, you can read words. I believe in you. There's an image. Okay.
Yeah, so this so this image is it's called the wheel of like the intersectionality, like wheel of privilege. It's something I've used a lot as a tool, just even in my personal life, to try to explain intersectionality to people, particularly my mother, who was a white woman, a white cis woman. So I've used this tool a lot to try to like explain to people how like people experience oppression in intersectional ways. And yeah, I like this one that I found because I think it does a pretty decent job at covering a lot of different like categories of identity and existence. Obviously it doesn't cover everything, and obviously I think there are things that like I would probably write different, but it kind of shows. So like I guess as a general kind of image description, not really in depth because it's a very like big image with a lot going on, but essentially it's a wheel, kind of like a color wheel that you would maybe use like in art. And there's 3 tiers to it. The center one is about power, and then the mid-tier ring is about like erase your identities, and just like kind of mid-tier like margin like mid-tier I guess like privilege. And then on the exterior wheel, the exterior ring is more marginalized identities, and it covers things like around the outskirts. There's a bunch of different topics like sexuality, gender, body size, skin color, neurodiversity, mental health, physical ability, religion, wealth, age, education, housing, transportation, political affiliation, marriage, citizenship, employment, language and communication, and sexuality. And basically, the point of this tool is to just kind of have a visual of like how you could maybe put yourself into different categories. Like you might like live in, like you might have a lower like socioeconomic status, but you might be white and able-bodied, for example. And so like it at least just for me, who like really helps with like a visualization, it helps with that. I'll send a link to the to the like the website where it talks about it a little bit more. But yeah, like the inner circle is kind of like, you know, the most privileged people can experience, and then it goes out from there. And yeah, I just wanted to share it because I think it's a good I think intersectionality is a topic that everyone should consider in their day-to-day lives, and this one is something that really helps me when explaining it to like people in my life and people around me.
appreciate that. It seems like this image is the sort of thing where, like, if folks wanted to, they could sit here and, like, do little dots and maybe figure out, like, you know, where...
Yeah, and honestly, I think if I was doing a workshop in that, like, if I was doing, like, an IRL workshop, I feel like I would print it out and have people, like write little stars for themselves so they can imagine, like, where they would fit on this. Because, yeah. Prismatic says, I can see how the circle can make it easier for someone to identify and accept their place on the diagram in a way that a top-down tree style sort of front loads the view of their place. Yeah, I think that, like, I feel that way too. I think that the circle makes it, like, makes it more, yeah, like, less like like how a pyramid would put, like, one person at the top, but it's like, that's not quite how it works. Like, someone could be much high, like, someone, like, could be theoretically closer to the top of the pyramid, but still have, like, other marginalizations. So I really like the circle. I think it's yeah.
It's a great piece to work with.
Yeah.
And keep in mind. Thanks for bringing that resource into our conversation today.
Yeah, of course.
We have more comments from DMs from my friend when we're ready.
Oh yeah, let's hear.
So from Burns Both Ends, to add to this, frame of reference is very important. It's like how in standardized tests or IQ tests, they have questions that require context. When my sister and I were getting IQ tests, she was getting speech therapy when we were very young. She's hard of hearing. They'd ask questions to try and get her to say something like grocery store or supermarket, but the questions were, where do you buy your eggs from? Where do you get your milk? Where does your mom buy bread? And since we lived in a rural area with small farms, all the answers were the egg farm, the milk store, the bread store. The assessors and speech therapists thought we had issues. We don't, because they came in from out of town. Our mom had to correct their frame of reference before they believed us. That's the kinds of issues you get with journalism. Frame of reference issues. Which totally makes sense. I mean, like, a big part of this second question that we're discussing about, like, the coverage of, you know, people of color or culturally and linguistically diverse background folks, you know, is you have people who don't share those identities reporting on it. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking about, I'm gonna turn that off for now. I'm thinking about when there are funerals for trans people that are organized by their cisgender family members, where they're getting dead named and totally not, like, their life isn't being honored or respected or represented very well. It's like, let's have this, like, maybe they weren't Christian, and so then the parents are having this Christian funeral for, like, a satanic trans person, and they're getting dead named. Like, when the story is being told, especially if there's death involved and you can't speak up for yourself, like, when the story is being told by someone who's does not share those identities, it's not going to be told very well, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Prismatic Blood. Also, many news outlets live to cause drama these days without much care for the consequences of the people who have to deal with it. The frame of reference might be corrected on social media, but the original article might ignore any corrections because it drives more clicks. Yeah. Yep. And then you have people just rage quitting any news at all, and yeah. You have disengagement, you have misrepresentation. It's a mess. It's a whole mess. That's part of some of these things that we're discussing is part of why I really like what the Clouder does. because we try to focus on trans joy being told by trans people. And we do talk about trans struggles. We give people a call to action to actively address it. Like, give us your money, give us your engagement, blast us out on socials. Like, this is a mutual aid thing. Like, we're doing something about it. Here's what you can do. You know, we don't just dwell in the, oh, this is too bad that it happened, because we're not, I don't know, for me at least, I'm not here to like cash in on other people's tragedy. Like, I'm here to do something about it.
Yeah.
It gets spicy when I think about how hard it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
It does effectively the same thing for the internet. News media was a large part of holding coherent shared reality together for people over large areas. They may not buy into a particular ideology, but they will pay for lip service to it for clicks. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's 1:20. We have some options, chat. We can decide that we're kind of cooked on these types of subjects and do something perhaps fun for the next 40 minutes. We can do some co-working. I know my to-do list is very large, and we could just kind of coexist and do a couple little sprints with the software we already have running. If people wanted to add to the checklist, I could go tidy up my to-do list so that there's room for other people's things. We could watch a 2-minute video on intention versus impact and do 3 little answer question sprints about that, which I think we could accomplish in 40 minutes, which is the time we have left for today. So I'm going to run a poll and see what people, where the vibe is at, where people are feeling like they want to go next. So we've got some co-working. Yay, we've got co-working as an option. We've got impact versus intention. Study. Oh, it won't let me do study. Oh, if I take the period out, it will. Pluto, if we did do some sort of video game thing, is there a game you would like to try and play together? Would you like to vibe while I play a game? Or a third thing?
I could vibe while you play a game.
We'll just do 2 minutes on this so that we don't spend all of our time voting. See where people are leaning. And Pluto, you're welcome to also vote if you would like. Because what you want to do also matters.
Yeah.
If you're on mobile, there is probably something at the top of your chat, your Twitch chat, that you can click and it'll do a little drop down, I think. On PC, it's also at the top of the Twitch chat, but it might be more obvious because you might have more visual space. I'm going to unpin this question because we have now answered that. So it's maybe easier to see the poll. So far we have 1 vote co-working, 1 vote impact versus intention study. We have about another minute on the poll if anyone else in the chat would like to weigh in. I'm going to take this minute that we have to take my medicine. I'm also seeing that ads are starting soon, so I might run them now while we're voting. I'll leave up the just chatting, or the us just chatting, so that, I don't know, maybe people will remember to vote. Well, we tied 1 vote for each co-working and impact versus intention study. So in that case, I think we'll do what we plan to do today and keep doing that. I'm gonna work on keeping to work on my meds, but we'll watch a little 2-minute video. Let's see if I can get that shared here. These sources that I don't actually remember what they are. About that. Still missing audio though. Like delete it.
Yo, so we're gonna give a
Captions are on. I know you all still can't see it. Just give me a moment. I need to turn the music off for myself. So I can hear what we're listening to. Okay. Weird that I can't see this at all. Because I am capturing a thing. Don't mind me. Just fixing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start over. Add browser. Wait, no. That's not what we want. La la la. Window capture. Ah. Capture audio beta. Ooh, yeah, let's try that. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna full screen that. Okay, now I'm gonna make it fit the rest of the scene, but we can at least see it now. Awesome. Okay, let me know if you can hear this all right, everybody.
a tool to conflict resolution right now, impact versus intent. Impact and intent is when somebody says something that's offensive to the person who heard it, but the person who said it didn't say it maliciously. So let's give an example. If somebody was to walk up and try to like touch my hair and say, oh, it's so beautiful. Boom, the moment they touch your hair, there's an impact there. So that impact for me is feeling like you violated my personal space. You took away my autonomy, my authority. You took away my sense of person, my ownership of self. And then if I was to be like, whoa, I'm harmed, whoa, you harmed me. Person be like, whoa, they get defensive, like, I didn't mean to do that. I was just trying to say how beautiful your hair was. Okay, I hear your intent, but first there was a huge impact because you violated my personal space. And so a good way to deal with intent and impact, listen to the other person and acknowledge the impact. Reflect on what they're saying back to you on how they've been impacted and be accountable to it. After you are accountable to the impact, you might have the space to explain what your intent was. That person may or may not want to hear it, but at least the one thing that they do want to hear is you acknowledging the impact and being accountable for that. And so me being the impacted person, I could state the impact. Hey, this is why I feel impacted. Stating that lets the other person know like how they have wronged you. And then you could acknowledge the intent if you want, so the other person can like let their guard down or be more willing to engage in whatever conversation needs to take place on resolving that conflict in the moment.
All right. So I'm hoping everyone heard that. That was our intention versus impact. It was just 2 minutes long, very, very short little video. I will post it in the chat. Folks.
It's a good video.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's really, I would say, potent and pithy. Like, it's short, but that doesn't mean it's not a really important skill.
Yeah, I think it's the creator of that video was able to capture an important topic in like a bite-sized format, which I think is really helpful for folks.
So we have 3 questions about this little subject for folks. And they're all, I feel like they're, oops. I think that the questions are kind of linked together enough that if folks wanted to try and answer all 3 in a row or something, you probably could. This link. I'm taking notes because when I publish this VOD, I'm going to try to keep the notes with all the links to the videos and stuff in it too. It's like we're doing a mini genderful. But we didn't prep a bunch ahead of time because we're tired. So here are our 3 questions. Have you ever been in a situation like the one described in the video? What was the situation? How did it affect you? Were you able to resolve the matter? And how did you resolve it? How did it make you feel? So have you ever been in a situation where someone impacted you? And how did that go? What are some of the outcomes? So we have 15 minutes that I just set aside for this. Might be a long time for writing time, but we'll see. We'll see how we do. If people feel done before 15 is done, we can wrap early on that.
I'm ready whenever chat is as well.
Look up which side I'm supposed to take my medicine today, and then we can get back to it, I think. Pluto, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of similar to what you said in your response in the point redeems. Yeah, like I've definitely been on both sides. And yeah, I think it's just important to recognize that that yeah, like whether you intended to cause any harm or intended to do anything, it still happened. And that's something that like you as a person, you know, owe to the other person that you're in community with. Like, you know, it's important for relationship building to be able to say like, yeah, like I messed up, like that was wrong of me, and you know, acknowledging that like an apology is like must also come with action, and saying like, okay, like I'm like, you know, like I didn't mean to intend you. Yeah, like I don't have any specific examples because I just feel like it's something that comes up in my life a lot. But it's like I didn't mean to like impact you in this way. But you know, I, you know, am going to fix it in like this is how I plan to, like this is what, like, you know, obviously depending on what the harm is that was caused, like definitely being like, you know, this is how I plan to like this is, you know, whatever, how I plan to fix the situation. Or yeah, I like what you said about, yeah, spoilers spoilers for your answer, but I like what you said about like not always needing to justify it. Like, yeah, sometimes you want to explain, but like sometimes it's just not the time.
Yeah. So I'll read my answer now. I'm struggling to remember a specific incident of running into intention versus impact. I know that I've been on both the offending and the offended side of this dynamic before. What I've learned about making amends and being accountable in my life revolves around the power of owning my impact without justification. I own my part of what happened without explaining the details about why. If the person wants to know the context, the why, they'll ask me. It's more important that I, 1, own what I did, and 2, live my life in such a way that I'm unlikely to make the same type of mistake again. Part of a powerful amends to another has to do with living changed behavior. It means the infliction of suffering, unintentional or not, is less likely to happen again coming from me. That's my answer to that question. I've worked on that particular thing pretty heavily in my life, and I think it's kind of important and worth sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's something that is very difficult, especially when you kind of have like rejection sensitive dysphoria. I think that's something that can come up a lot. And I think that it's always important to, like, if that's what you're feeling, make that your, like, something that you deal with and not something that you're now putting on to the other person, if that makes sense. Like, that's something that, like, I think I've had to, like, learn the, like, I've definitely had to, like, learn and put it into practice of, like, oh, now this is something that now I have to, like, unpack for myself and, like, learn how to accommodate that feeling while also acknowledging that, like, I, like, hurt or upset someone, if that those words are coming off of the way I want them to. Yeah.
I was thinking about the very technical, sharp activity that I'm doing over here. Did you just mention about the autistic urge to give context and explain, and how, like, sometimes we have to kind of restrain ourselves on that
Yeah, I was
desire?
I was talking about, like, that and, like, rejection sensitive dysphoria, and how, like,
Oh,
those
yeah.
are both things that, like, are very real, but then you have to, like, you have to manage your own emotions on that, and do your own work aside from, like, the person that you, like, maybe upset, or even just, like, with another, like, friend who, you know, you ask, be like, hey, are you, like, do you have space to talk about this? I think is helpful for me a lot.
Well, and if it's beyond, like, apologizing in the moment for something, if it's like an apology that you're planning, I think it's a really good idea to have, like, a self-care plan. Like, maybe bookend it. Like have a different friend who's not part of the situation, so you're not gossiping. Like, be your little emotional support buddy with their consent ahead of time. Like, you know, ask, like, hey, I need to do this thing. Are you available to be my little buddy? And then talk to that friend before and after. Yeah, talk to that other friend before and after, and how did it go? And I really wanted to share this, and, you know,
Yeah.
whatever those various thoughts are.
Well, I guess this is a specific. I said I didn't have a specific example. This, like, I do a lot of, like, well, speaking vaguely, but, like, I do a lot of in-person organizing where I'm on, like, a consistent committee that meets, like, well, right now we're meeting every week, and you know, there was a big conflict last week where someone ended up leaving the team, and it was, like, a whole thing. And we had a debrief on Sunday where we talked about all of our big feelings, and it was really helpful, and just to have that space where we were, like, everybody involved in this conflict, except minus the person who left, of course. Like, we were all able to, like, unpack and discuss our feelings, and it was really good, and I do think that, like, having that kind of self-care, and I unpack with my friends who were separate from the situation that week as well, and it's really helpful. I think that having somebody else involved who can support you is really big. Hi, friend. Sorry, my roommate's cat has made an appearance on my desk, and it's very cute.
Exciting.
But there's no pictures because I'm on. Oh, hello! You've come to say hi.
Yay, cat.
Cats.
I love that.
She is picture a fluffy tortoiseshell cat with green eyes. She's beautiful, very fluffy. Yeah, I don't know. I think my thought ended because I got distracted by the cat. But I think I was pretty much done. Having the space to debrief is very nice. TLDR.
Yeah, it is. It is. Chat, does anyone here want to share about making amends or the importance of owning your impact? Any of those topics? I think, while Chat is considering and typing, I'll just share that I think that what the presenter in the video said that I felt was especially powerful is that this is a tool for repair. This is the point of this tool of owning your impact, is not to humiliate or make people feel bad. It is to repair relationship.
Yeah.
It is to find ways to, when possible and healthy to do so, stay in connection and in community. Especially in a time where the powers that be, the powers of oppression that be, are working so hard to separate us or create infighting. Being brave and owning your part and owning that you're an imperfect being who makes mistakes, and owning your impact, like, that is actually part of how we resist the power structures that want to take away our livelihood and our wellness and our humanity. It's part of how we resist capitalism. Because it keeps us in community, and community is one of our strongest powers.
Yeah, we are stronger together.
Prismatic says, I have had problems with people denying that they had an intention altogether, and thus the incident is an accident to brush off and forget. You have to properly listen so you know what to apologize for. If you need to apologize for something, if you hurt someone intentionally or no, and just say sorry and cut them off with that apology. You're not really saying sorry, are you? No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And in those cases, like, when people choose their own ego or their own sense of reality over listening to another person's perspective, it is really difficult to build a relationship or connection with those sorts of people, because they are not available for a relationship. They are available for a dictatorship. They're available for, like, only my reality is what's real. I can't think of specific examples when people have told me that I hurt them and I didn't understand. That happens much less frequently in my life, but I know that at least once or twice that's happened in the last 10 years, I'll say. And I think my response has been along the lines of, thank you for sharing this with me. I would like to spend some time thinking about it, and I'm sorry for how, you've been impacted by this. And I go and I look at it and I take time and I think about it and I dig into it and I talk to other people like, hey, this thing happened and here's this person's perspective, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what of this is mine and what of this is theirs, if any. Like, my assumption is the other person is probably right, that I have done something wrong, and they're also doing me a favor by telling me. They're giving me a gift. When people share that type of information with us, like, they're giving us a gift. If my friends thought that I just didn't care about whatever identity that they have that I just microaggressed against, they wouldn't take the time to correct me. They would just write me off and stop talking to me. And so I'm always confused when we have the opportunity to get that type of feedback from people, and then folks are just like, oh no, I didn't do that, that wasn't me. And it's like, no, you are completely missing the point here. Like, this is someone giving you a chance to make it right. This is someone taking energy and time out of their day to say, instead of writing you off, I'm taking the time to educate you and give you an opportunity to come back and join me in this place. And it's always disheartening when I see people just not understand or take advantage of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Prismatic says, yeah, big mood, that can be abused, but in general, it's good to have good faith about stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is walrusing. That's a whole other thing, but people who are doing the walrusing aren't doing it in good faith. If I remember correctly, and maybe I picked the wrong animal, but I think it's called walrusing. Walrusing is when people ask you to explain, not because they don't know, but because they want to waste your energy and make you run around in circles, basically. But why? But why? But why? It's like a troll tactic on the internet. Sea lining. Yeah, that's right. It's called sea lining. Sorry.
It was a different.
I knew I got it wrong.
Adjacent creature.
I always mix those up. I've heard about sea lining for a couple years now because we have some internet things that we got to moderate, and our mod teams discuss different troll tactics sometimes because it comes up. And sea lining. That's right. You thought it was probably that when you explained it. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know what that meant. Yeah. Sea lining. Anyway, sea lining. Well, Pluto, do you have anything else for us today that you'd like to share or have us reflect on before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think I'm very happy that we were able to have these nice discussions this fine Tuesday.
Yes. I really don't know why all of my sound commands are broken. I need to investigate that. It's very interesting to me. I need to go write that down somewhere. Why are my sound commands broken? Oh.
Prismatic says, I meant how you open yourself to the idea that it's probably you because someone is trusting you to tell you about the thing you maybe did. Yeah. TBC. To be continued. And then Monique says, I've been on both sides, but sadly, whether I'm the offender or offended, I shut down from either sadness that I did something to hurt someone or frustration and anger because I can't get the person to listen. Yeah, I feel like I've experienced that too. I think that sometimes when stuff like that happens, I think I have to like step away from the conversation to regulate my emotions and then kind of revisit it when I'm in a like more like emotionally like I'm in a different emotional state. I feel like that's what I had to start doing in a lot of cases where I felt like I was like really struggling with kind of like emotional regulation piece of it.
Yeah, I think that's where like if I'm making like a formal apology or amends to someone, like it's important for me to write it down and then run it by somebody else before I go make them. Because then I know that if it's written down, then I have taken away the opportunity for me to justify stuff on accident. And if I've run it by someone else, they might notice something that's really obvious that I missed or what have you, and I tend to do a better job of doing that process with others.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really vital part of the owning my impact process. It's also like a skill that can be developed with time. Like you have to practice it. It's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy to have someone like come at you with an accusation. Maybe it feels like that, even if it's not actually, but in the moment, perhaps it feels that way. And then to be able to like, regulate and, if I'm too emotional to respond right then, that's when I usually say, thank you for letting me know. I'm going to go think about this and get back to you. So then they know, like, I've heard you, I'm not ignoring you, but I need to go process this in where you are not an audience member so that I'm not going to cause emotional whatever the hell while I figure it out. Like, yeah, I need to go sort this out and do it in my autistic, overwhelmed, disabled time and come back to you. But the other important part is making sure that I come back within a reasonable amount of time. So if that's a day, or a week or whatever, not letting it just sit around and ignore it and be scared of it and get overwhelmed by it. Like I need to schedule it. So you have a pretty strong fauna reflex, sometimes prismatic. So getting a way to think things over before I make decisions is helpful. Mama Neek says, though I did tell a person who said around me, "Make America Great," because I was wearing a mask, to F themselves, which I really didn't mean. I just went from calm to angry so fast. It even surprised my partner and kid. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier on stream, Monique, about how it feels like sometimes like just the whole country has lost some of their politeness and their masking about basic social niceties. And that anger and vitriol is so much more to the surface for so many people right now. I honestly think that it's the outcome of the collective trauma of COVID. Like all people at all levels of privilege were put through a trauma, and frankly, people who are not accustomed to experiencing trauma, who don't live it on a more regular basis, don't know how to handle it. And when they have more privilege, they also don't have the dangerous, life-threatening checks and balances that makes them suppress their emotions. And so we have a lot of traumatized, privileged people that are not like seeking therapy or working through their trauma. They're just traumatized and acting out.
Yeah, because they don't honestly even realize that they're traumatized. Like they're that.
They don't.
Like they don't know that they're traumatized, and so they're just taking it out on other people who are more marginalized than more often than not.
I was going to have us raid Kamesy, but it looks like Kamesy's about to raid out also. So, haha. Unless we want to run over there right quick and say hi, but yeah, I think Kamesy's offline now. Maybe. No, it's still, I don't know. But I see people saying thank you for stream. So, we have some other options. We have Cafe NB, who's on our stream team, who's doing Odd Sparks Early Access. We have Chi Chi doing some Minecraft. Jazz Adele is doing, it says Mutual Aid EP Witchy Farming. That's adorable. Wildflowers. Then Autumn is Her is doing PUBG. I'm kind of leaning towards the Mutual Aid stream myself, but
yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well.
Okay.
I'm leaning towards that as well. I think it'll be nice to go to some farming after we just had some heavier and just like using brain power chats.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us for this conversation. We have this show doing the work on the second Tuesday of the month. Usually. I'm pretty sure that's always true.
Yeah.
So if you would like to join me and often Pluto, we're here doing this stuff. We have 7 more major sections of the curriculum that I have us working through, plus a bunch of other resources we've been compiling. So future topics might include things like microaggressions, cultural appropriation, land acknowledgements, decolonization. That's a lot on decolonization. Racial healing, white fragility and white hostility. Don't call the police. Those are some of the titles of things we'll cover. So this show is once a month, second Tuesday of the month. We recently upgraded our Discord events in the Meowsters Clatter Discord server, so that if it's a show that repeats like this one, you can like do a reminder button on there, and then you don't have to do it again next month when we repost it, because it's actually recurring now. We figured out the recurrence. Discord got their stuff upgraded enough. So you can actually RSVP to those events in the community Discord server, which we work very hard on maintaining them. And honestly, I have an easier time updating the Discord events if something is not quite accurate than I do a social media post, because that's how my brain works. So please do keep an eye on that if you are a Discord user. It is a really useful little tool. It'll do a little notification for you in the server when the event starts. It's nice. Coming up the rest of this week, what do we have? Let's see. On Thursday, we have Tarot for Trans. Momster is back. We'll be live around 1 p.m. Pacific doing tarot for everyone. We will be ending before or at 3 o'clock because I have a 3 o'clock appointment. So if you want to do a tarot reading, try to show up in the first half of stream to get in line for the cards. It'll be very fun. And then next week we have, on Monday, we have Genderful with Finn Leary. We have Shenanigans with Sunberry on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, it's the beginning of the Clouder Takeover, and Mirami is doing Mirami's Mystery Box. So we'll have some Clouder contributors for that. For Thursday next week and the following week is Shenanigans with Ray, and Keemsey is doing a Clouder Takeover as well. So yeah, that's the content you have to look forward to. There's also, Genderful podcast has hundreds of episodes you can go enjoy on podcasting platforms, on YouTube. And
our new
yeah.
VOD channel.
Yes, and our new VOD channel, which does not have Genderful podcast, but does have all the rest of them, probably.
Yeah.
As long as I remember to export them.
As
If at any point someone is like, hey, you missed this one, like, just let me know. I'll be like, oh yeah, there it is. And I'll export it. So anyway, thank you all for being here. We are going to go see Jazz Adele, who is doing mutual aid right now, I think for, I see university fee and medical needs, 17% of $4,500, which is a big heckin' chunk.
I believe they're
is it also Palestine?
C, who is in our
okay.
Also on our stream team. So
yes. Oh, I was trying to see if C was live because I would have just raided directly there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's our raid messages. The first one will work if you have a subscription. The second one works for everybody. Feel free to do a cheeky little copy paste. Jazz Adele is using the tags transgender, autistic, LGBTQIA, POC, plus size, disabled, Arab, DC3 creators. Oh yeah, I should put that in my tags. Mutual aid and witch, which is very cute and fun, and
very cute.
Is running a QT BIPOC forward space. Jazz Adele is very cute. We love Jazz Adele.
Nice.
So I'm just excited that we have not a horror stream, so I can actually raid Jazz, because I don't want to raid into a horror game. It's not, my heart doesn't like it, but I love Jazz. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
anyway.
So it's very nice that they're farming today.
Yes. Yay, farming. We love it. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for coming, everyone. To have a good rest of your time zone.
Also, go follow Gothic Pluto. Okay, love you. Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.